On the day we buried my son Dave, his wife Emily looked me dead in the eye and told me I had 24 hours to get out of her house. I was still wearing my funeral dress. My hands were still shaking from lowering my only child into the ground. But Emily's eyes were cold, calculated, almost excited. She had no idea that the envelope the detectives would bring to my door the next morning would reveal exactly why she'd been so eager to see me gone. Hello, and welcome. Let me ask you something. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were counting down the days until they could destroy you? If you've ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to be family, make sure to like this video and subscribe. You're not alone, and this story needs to be heard. Drop a comment if you've ever seen someone's true colors emerge at the worst possible moment. My name is Laura Maxwell. I'm 60 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew what grief felt like. I'd lost my husband Tom to cancer 8 years ago. I thought that was the worst pain a human being could endure, watching the love of your life fade away, one labored breath at a time. I was wrong. Nothing, and I mean nothing, prepares you for burying your child. My son Dave was 34. Healthy, vibrant, full of life. He was a software engineer, brilliant with computers, but terrible with remembering to call his mother. Still, I didn't mind. I knew he loved me. He'd proven it 2 years ago when Tom's life insurance ran out and I couldn't afford my mortgage anymore. Dave didn't hesitate. "Mom, move in with us," he'd said, his voice warm and reassuring over the phone. "Emily and I have that guest suite downstairs. It's basically a separate apartment. You'll have your privacy, we'll have ours, and I'll get to see you more often. It's perfect." Emily had smiled when I arrived with my boxes. I remember that smile now, and it makes my stomach turn. It was the smile of someone who knew how to play a long game. "Laura, welcome home," she'd said, hugging me with just enough pressure to seem genuine. "We're so happy to have you here." For 2 years, I lived in that basement suite. I kept to myself mostly, cooked my own meals, did my own laundry, tried not to be a burden. I'd hear them upstairs sometimes, laughing, arguing about small things like what to watch on Netflix or whose turn it was to take out the trash. Normal couple sounds. Happy sounds. Dave would come down every few days, sit on my little couch, and talk about work, about Emily's real estate career, about their plans to start a family soon. His eyes would light up when he talked about the future. He never got that future. 3 weeks ago, Dave collapsed at work. A brain aneurysm, the doctors said. Sudden. Unpredictable. Fatal. He was gone before the ambulance even arrived. The call came from Emily. I remember her voice, flat, emotionless, like she was reading from a script. "Laura, it's Dave. He's gone. You need to come to the hospital." I don't remember the drive. I don't remember parking. I just remember running through those sterile white hallways, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst, and finding Emily in the waiting room. She wasn't crying. Her makeup was perfect. She was on her phone. "Emily." My voice cracked. "Where is he? Where's my son?" She looked up slowly, slipping her phone into her designer purse. "They already took him down to the morgue. There's paperwork to fill out." Paperwork. My son was dead, and she was talking about paperwork. But grief does strange things to your mind. I told myself she was in shock. People process trauma differently. Maybe this was just how Emily coped, by focusing on logistics, on tasks, on things she could control. I should have known better. The next week was a blur of funeral arrangements. Emily took charge of everything, which I appreciated at first. I could barely function. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I spent hours in Dave's old childhood bedroom at the house, holding his high school baseball trophy, smelling his old jacket that still hung in the closet. Emily planned a beautiful service. Expensive, tasteful. She invited Dave's colleagues, his friends from college, distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. She wore black Chanel and dark sunglasses, playing the role of grieving widow with disturbing perfection. At the funeral, she stood beside me at the casket. I was sobbing so hard I could barely stand. Emily's hand was on my shoulder, steady, supportive. People kept telling her how strong she was being. If only they'd seen what I saw. During the eulogy, While the pastor was talking about Dave's kindness and generosity, I noticed Emily checking her phone. Quickly, discreetly, hidden in her lap. She typed something, hit send, then slipped it back into her clutch. At the cemetery, while they lowered my son into the ground, I caught her eye. Just for a second. And in that second, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Relief. She looked relieved. After the burial, everyone came back to the house for the reception. Emily had hired caterers, set up tables in the backyard, created a photo display of Dave's life. She worked the room like a politician, accepting condolences, hugging people, dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. I sat in the corner, numb, watching her performance. Around 7 o'clock, people started leaving. By 8, the house was empty except for Emily, me, and the catering staff packing up in the kitchen. Emily kicked off her heels and poured herself a generous glass of wine. She didn't offer me one. Long day, she said, her voice different now. Sharper. The mask slipping. Yes, I whispered. Thank you for arranging everything. It was beautiful. Dave would have. We need to talk about your living situation. I blinked. I'm sorry. Emily set down her wine glass and crossed her arms. The grieving widow was gone. This was someone else entirely. This is my house now, Laura. Mine. And I think it's time you found somewhere else to live. The room tilted. What? You heard me. I've been very patient, very accommodating. But Dave's gone now, and frankly, I need my space. I need to grieve in private, and I can't do that with you here. Emily, I don't understand. Where am I supposed to go? She shrugged. That's not really my problem, is it? You have family, friends. Figure it out. I'm giving you 24 hours. I stood up, my legs shaking. Dave would never. Dave's dead. Her voice was ice. And this is my house. You're not on the deed. You're not on any paperwork. You have no legal right to be here. So, I suggest you start packing. I don't remember walking down to my basement suite. I don't remember sitting on my bed, staring at the walls, trying to process what had just happened. My son was in the ground, and his wife had just thrown me out like garbage. But what I didn't know, what Emily couldn't have known, was that in less than 12 hours, 2 detectives would knock on that door. And they would be carrying something that would change everything. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I sat on the edge of my bed in that basement suite, surrounded by boxes I hadn't even started packing, staring at the concrete wall. The same wall I'd stared at for 2 years, never complaining, never causing trouble. Always grateful. Always quiet. Around 3 a.m, I heard footsteps above me. Emily's heels clicking across the hardwood floor. Back and forth, pacing. Then her voice, muffled but urgent. She was on the phone. I crept to the bottom of the stairs, holding my breath. I told you it's handled, Emily was saying. She'll be gone by tomorrow. No, she won't be a problem. Because she's a grieving old woman who can barely function. Yes, I'm sure. Just stick to the plan. The plan. What plan? My hand gripped the banister so tight my knuckles went white. Every instinct screamed at me that something was terribly, horribly wrong. But what could I do? I was exhausted, destroyed, barely holding myself together. And Emily was right about one thing. I had no legal claim to this house. Dave had told me I'd always have a home with them, but we'd never put it in writing. Why would we? He was my son. I trusted him. I trusted them. The footsteps stopped. I heard Emily's bedroom door close. Then silence. I went back downstairs and finally started packing. Not because I'd accepted it, but because I didn't know what else to do. I wrapped Dave's baby pictures in newspaper. I folded the quilt my mother had made. I packed away Tom's watch, the one memento I had left of my husband. At 6 a.m., I was taping up my 3rd box when I heard it. Knock. 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 Heavy. Authoritative. Not the kind of knock you ignore. I heard Emily's bedroom door fly open upstairs, heard her rush down the hallway. Through the heating vent, I could hear everything. Who is it? Emily called out, her voice tight. Detective Morris and Detective Chun, ma'am. We need to speak with you about your husband. My heart stopped. Detectives? I crept up my stairs and opened my door just a crack. From there, I could see into the foyer. Two people in plain clothes stood at the front door, a tall black woman with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, and an Asian man in his 40s with wire-rimmed glasses and a leather portfolio under his arm. Emily had thrown on a robe. Her hair was messy, her face bare of makeup for once. She looked younger, vulnerable. Nothing like the cold creature who'd kicked me out 12 hours ago. Detectives? She put a trembling hand to her chest. I don't understand. Dave died of natural causes. The doctors said. May we come in? Detective Morris's tone left no room for argument. Emily stepped back and they entered. She led them to the living room, and I watched from the shadows of the hallway, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it. Mrs. Maxwell, when was the last time you saw your husband alive? Detective Chun pulled out a notepad. The morning he died. He left for work around 7:30. I was getting ready for a showing. I'm in real estate, so. And you didn't find it unusual that your husband never mentioned feeling ill? No headaches, vision problems, dizziness. Emily's jaw tightened. Brain aneurysms are unpredictable. That's what the doctors told me. Detective Morris exchanged a glance with her partner. Mrs. Maxwell, we're going to need you to come down to the station to answer some questions. Questions about what? Emily's voice rose. My husband just died. I buried him yesterday. This is harassment. This is a murder investigation. The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Emily went pale. Murder? That's insane. Dave had an aneurysm. It's in the medical examiner's report. The preliminary report, yes. Detective Chen opened his portfolio and pulled out a document. But when the ME performed the full autopsy, standard procedure in sudden deaths of seemingly healthy young adults, she found something interesting. Traces of a substance that doesn't occur naturally in the human body. I couldn't breathe. What substance? Emily's voice was barely a whisper. Ethylene glycol. Antifreeze, Mrs. Maxwell. In significant quantities. Emily laughed. It was sharp, almost hysterical. That's ridiculous. You think I poisoned my husband with antifreeze? This is absurd. I love Dave. Why would I? For the $3 million life insurance policy you took out on him 6 months ago? Silence. Emily's face went from pale to gray. We took that out together. It was a joint decision. We were planning for the future, for children. Funny thing about that policy, Detective Morris said, leaning forward. Your husband's signature on the application? Our document analyst says it's forged. Dave Maxwell never signed that paperwork. You did. Both signatures. I didn't. Emily was stammering now, her composure cracking like ice over deep water. We also pulled your financial records. You've got some significant debts, Mrs. Maxwell. Gambling debts, specifically. Nearly $200,000 owed to some very unpleasant people. People who don't take, I'll pay you back later, as an answer. Emily stood up abruptly. I'm not saying another word without my lawyer. That's your right. Detective Chin stood as well, closing his portfolio. But we're going to need you to come with us. We have more questions, and we have a warrant to search this property. Search for what? For the bottle of antifreeze we believe you used. For any remaining traces of the poison. For your computer, your phone records, any evidence that might tell us exactly how long you've been planning this. Emily's eyes darted around the room, like a trapped animal looking for escape. And then, slowly, her gaze landed on me. I was standing in the hallway now, fully visible. I hadn't even realized I'd moved. The look she gave me was pure hatred.
Pure un diluted venom.
You, she hissed. You called them, didn't you? You bitter old. Mrs. Maxwell. Detective Morris stepped between us. Let's go. As they led Emily toward the door in handcuffs, she twisted around to look at me one last time. This isn't over, she spat. You have no idea what you've done. But I did know. I just watched my son's murderer get arrested. And I hadn't made a single phone call. The door closed behind the detectives and Emily, and I collapsed against the wall, my legs finally giving out. My son hadn't died of natural causes. He'd been murdered, poisoned, by the woman who'd shared his bed, kissed him goodbye every morning, promised to love him until death did them part. She'd made sure death came early. I don't know how long I sat there on the floor, trembling, trying to process what I'd just heard. $3 million. Gambling debts. Forged signatures. The words kept spinning through my mind like a nightmare carousel. Within an hour, the house was swarming with forensic technicians. They photographed everything, swabbed surfaces, bagged items I couldn't identify. A kind young woman in a police windbreaker found me still sitting in the hallway and helped me to the couch. "Ma'am, are you Laura Maxwell, the victim's mother?" I nodded, unable to speak. "Detective Morris would like to speak with you. Are you up for that?" I nodded again. Detective Morris sat across from me, her expression softer now. "Mrs. Maxwell, I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry you had to find out this way. How long have you known?" My voice sounded hollow, distant. "We've suspected foul play for about a week. The medical examiner flagged the case because your son's symptoms before death didn't quite match a typical aneurysm. He'd been to his doctor twice in the past month complaining of nausea, fatigue, confusion. His wife told the doctor he'd been working too hard, stressed about a big project. The doctor prescribed rest and sent him home. But those were symptoms of poisoning."
Yes.
Ethylene glycol poisoning mimics flu symptoms at first. Most people don't realize what's happening until it's too late. By the time your son collapsed, his kidneys were already failing. The aneurysm was likely caused by the poison's effect on his vascular system. I closed my eyes. He suffered. "I'm afraid so. I'm very sorry." A tear rolled down my cheek. Then another. Then I was sobbing, great heaving sobs that came from somewhere so deep I didn't know I had anything left to give. Detective Morris waited patiently, handing me tissues, not rushing me. When I finally caught my breath, I asked the question that was burning in my chest. Why didn't anyone catch it sooner? Antifreeze poisoning is rare, and when it does happen, it's usually accidental. Kids drinking it from garage containers, that sort of thing. Deliberate poisoning is uncommon enough that doctors don't typically test for it unless there's reason to suspect it. Your daughter-in-law was very careful. Small doses over several weeks. Not enough to cause immediate crisis, but enough to slowly shut down his organs. She killed him slowly. The words tasted like acid. Yes. And last night, she threw me out. The day we buried him, she told me I had 24 hours to leave. Detective Morris's eyebrows rose. She did. She said it was her house now, that she needed to grieve in private. But that wasn't it, was it? She wanted me gone. "Mrs. Maxwell, did your son have a home office? A place where he kept important documents?"
Yes.
"Upstairs, the second bedroom." "And where is your suite?" "Downstairs. The basement." Detective Morris pulled out her notepad. "So, you wouldn't have easy access to his office. Wouldn't see what papers he kept, what might be lying around." My stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your daughter-in-law was very motivated to get you out of this house before you started going through your son's belongings. Before you found something she didn't want you to find." "Like what?" Detective Morris glanced toward the stairs, where forensic techs were carrying out sealed evidence bags. "We're about to find out." My stomach dropped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your daughter-in-law was very motivated to get you out of this house before you started going through your son's belongings. Before you found something she didn't want you to find." "Like what?" "They searched for 6 hours. I sat on that couch, drinking cold coffee that someone had made, watching strangers dismantle my son's life. They took his computer, his files, his phone records that the service provider had sent over. They searched Emily's office, her car, the garage. And then, around 2 in the afternoon, Detective Chin came downstairs carrying a small evidence bag. Inside was a bottle of antifreeze. "Found it in the garage, behind some paint cans," he said quietly to Detective Morris. "Partially empty. We'll test it, but I'm willing to bet we find her fingerprints all over it." "How stupid is she?" Morris muttered. "Arrogant, not stupid. She thought she'd gotten away with it. Thought the me would rubber stamp the aneurysm diagnosis, and that would be that. What made them look closer? I asked. Detective Chin turned to me, seeming surprised I'd spoken. Anonymous tip, actually. Someone called the ME's office 3 days after your son died and suggested they run a full toxicology panel. Said they had reason to believe his death wasn't natural. My heart skipped. Who? Don't know. Caller wouldn't identify themselves. Used a burner phone. But whoever it was, they knew something. An anonymous caller. Someone who knew Emily was dangerous. Someone who wanted her caught. But who? Mrs. Maxwell, Detective Morris said, standing up and buttoning her blazer. We're going to need you to stay available for questioning over the next few days. Don't leave town. And... She paused. Legally, this is still your daughter-in-law's house. But given the circumstances, we can help you find temporary housing until the estate is settled. I want to stay here. The words came out stronger than I expected. This was my son's home. I'm not leaving. Morris studied me for a long moment, then nodded.
All right.
But be careful. If Emily makes bail, she won't come after me. She's too smart for that. You're watching her now.
True.
But Mrs. Maxwell? Morris handed me a card. If you remember anything at all that seemed odd in the weeks before your son's death, call me. Even small details matter. After they left, the house felt different. Haunted, maybe. Or maybe just seen for what it truly was, not a home, but a crime scene. I walked upstairs to Dave's office. The door was open, the room ransacked by investigators. Papers everywhere, drawers pulled out, files scattered. And there, on his desk, was a framed photo of the three of us. Dave, Emily, and me, taken at their wedding 5 years ago. I picked it up, staring at Emily's smiling face. Who was this woman? And how had I lived under the same roof with a murderer for 2 years without knowing? Then I saw it. Tucked under the frame, a corner of yellow paper peeking out. I pulled it free. It was a post-it note. In Dave's handwriting. Mom, if anything happens to me, check the safe. Code is your birthday. Trust no one. I love you. My hands started shaking. Dave had known. The safe. Dave had a safe. I tore through his office like a woman possessed, yanking open closet doors, moving boxes, searching behind furniture. Nothing. Where would he hide a safe? Then I remembered the master bedroom closet. Emily's closet. When I'd helped them move in, Dave had joked about needing a man cave, even in the closet. He'd had a small section in the back, behind Emily's endless rows of designer shoes and handbags. I ran down the hall, my heart hammering. The bedroom still smelled like Emily's perfume, sickly sweet, cloying. I pushed through her clothes, shoving aside silk blouses and wool coats until I reached the back corner. There it was. A small digital safe, bolted to the wall, hidden behind a stack of shoeboxes. My fingers trembled as I entered the code. 0-4-1-8-6-5, April 18th, 1965. My birthday. The safe beeped. The lock disengaged. Inside were 3 items. A USB drive, a manila envelope, and a burner phone. I grabbed all 3 and ran back downstairs to my suite, locking the door behind me. My laptop was still sitting on my bed, half-packed. I powered it up and inserted the USB drive. One folder, labeled Evidence. Inside were dozens of files. Bank statements showing Emily's gambling losses, online poker, sports betting, casino withdrawals. Screenshots of threatening messages from loan sharks. Credit card bills for charges Dave never made. And then video files. I clicked the first one. It was security camera footage from inside the house. Dave must have installed hidden cameras. The timestamp showed 3 weeks before he died. The video showed the kitchen. Emily was alone, wearing workout clothes, her hair in a ponytail. She opened the refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of orange juice, Dave's orange juice, the organic kind he drank every morning. She looked around, then reached under the sink. She pulled out the antifreeze bottle. I watched, frozen in horror, as she unscrewed both caps, poured a small amount of the poison into the juice, then shook the bottle to mix it. She wiped it clean, put it back in the fridge, and hid the antifreeze again. The entire thing took 45 seconds. She'd done it so casually, like adding sugar to tea. The next video was worse. It showed Emily in Dave's office, going through his desk. She found his insurance policy, the real one, the legitimate one for $500,000. She photographed it with her phone, then slipped it back. The final video was dated 5 days before Dave died. He'd set up the camera himself, angled at his face. He looked exhausted, sick. His skin had a gray tinge. "Mom," he said to the camera, his voice weak. "If you're watching this, it means I didn't make it. It means Emily succeeded." He coughed, wiping his mouth with a shaking hand. "I've been sick for weeks. The doctors say it's stress, but I know better. I know what she's doing. I found the antifreeze bottle in her car last week. She tried to hide it, but I saw the residue on her hands one morning. I confronted her, and she laughed. She actually laughed and told me I was being paranoid." Tears streamed down my face as I watched my son, knowing he was already dying, knowing he was trying to protect me even then. "I've documented everything," Dave continued. "The cameras, the bank records, the forged insurance policy, I found in her locked drawer. I called the ME's office myself yesterday. Used to burn her phone, so she wouldn't know. Told them to run a full talk screen if anything happens to me. I'm leaving this for you, because I know Emily will try to hurt you next."
She hates you, Mom. She's always hated you.
"She thinks you're in the way." He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes bloodshot but determined. "The envelope has my real will. The one Emily doesn't know about. I made sure you're taken care of. The house, everything, it's yours. I updated it with my lawyer 2 months ago when I realized what she was planning. Don't let her win. Don't let her take anything else from us." His voice broke. "I'm sorry I didn't get out sooner. I'm sorry I didn't protect myself better. I thought I could gather enough evidence first, get her arrested before she succeeded. I was wrong. But I won't let her destroy you too. I love you, Mom. Tell my story. Make sure everyone knows what she did." The video ended. I sat there, clutching the laptop, sobbing so hard my ribs ached. My son had fought until the very end. He'd known he was dying, and he'd spent his last days building a case against his murderer. I opened the manila envelope with shaking hands. Inside was Dave's updated will, notarized and legal, leaving everything to me. There was also a letter from his attorney, instructions for filing it with probate court, and a separate document, a restraining order he'd prepared against Emily, dated the day before he died. He'd never gotten the chance to file it. I picked up the burner phone. There was one saved number. No name. I called it. Detective Morris answered on the second ring. "Hello." It was him. I whispered. Dave made the anonymous call. He knew she was killing him, and he documented everything. Silence. Then, "Mrs. Maxwell, where are you right now?" "At the house. I found his safe. I have everything, videos, bank records, his will. All of it. Don't move. I'm sending a unit to you right now. And Mrs. Maxwell? Lock your doors. Underscore 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 underscore. 2 days later, Emily was formally charged with first-degree murder. The evidence was overwhelming. The videos, the forged insurance policy, the financial motive, all of it built an airtight case. She's awaiting trial now.
Nobody.
And, according to Detective Morris, she's facing life in prison. The house is mine. Dave made sure of that. Every morning, I wake up in the master bedroom, Emily's former bedroom, and I remember what my son did for me. How he fought for me even as poison coursed through his veins. People ask me if I'll ever forgive Emily. The answer is no. But I will honor my son. I'll live in this house, fill it with love and light, and make sure his story is never forgotten. That's what justice looks like. So tell me, Do you think Emily will get what she deserves? Or do you think the justice system will let her slip through the cracks? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, if it made you think about the people you trust, make sure to subscribe. These stories matter. They remind us to pay attention, to trust our instincts, to protect the ones we love. Because sometimes the monster isn't hiding under the bed. Sometimes they're sleeping right beside you.